Hi, it's Trapper here, and I'd like to welcome you to the ITC Geeks professional development on OneNote class notebook, Creating Interactive Lessons. In this PD, we will explore how to create a lesson, all the different parts of a lesson, and then how to use the lessons inside of our class notebook. Let's take a quick look at the agenda before we get started. A quick reminder, while instructional videos are great, transitions and information sometimes can come quickly. To get the most from this video, please remember to pause often, rewind when necessary, and watch again. In this session, we'll be covering the following: all the ways that we can add content to a page in OneNote, how layers interact with each other on a page. We will explore secondary and elementary content examples. We'll even create our own interactive lessons. And finally, we will be embedding apps into these lessons that we just created. Let's go ahead and get started. Before we can talk about creating interactive lessons in OneNote, we should probably explore what content we can actually add. You can literally add almost any digital content that you can think of to a page in OneNote. This is the power of OneNote. Tie in its ability to arrange that content in any order that you like, and you have the most powerful tool in education. If you ask me, if you could only have one educational tool to use, what would it be? Of course I'd say OneNote. It's that useful. Additionally, if you incorporate its ability to embed other educational apps, then you have a resource that can't be ignored. Now that we've built up some hype, let's take a look at what it can do. As you see on the slide here, there's a multitude of options of different ways that we can add content to a OneNote page. We could explore each one, but it may be better served to look at my top 5 favorites instead. So let's hop over to my OneNote and check out my top 5 ways to add content to a page. All right, so my very favorite thing to add to for content creation to my OneNote page is tables. Hands down, it's my favorite thing to add in there. Actually, it's one of my favorite things to work in with a lot of Microsoft stuff. I love tables. Some people hate tables. Take it or leave it. But I can tell you this, I can design more and do more with a table than I can just tabs. The tab. Can't handle that. So let's take a look at adding tables to OneNote and some of the benefits of that. And then additionally, I'll show you a little trick. We can actually just take tables that we've got in existing documents and paste them right into our OneNote without having to do anything. It's fantastic. So let's go ahead and start by adding in a table. So to do that, we're going to go up here to the Insert button, and you can see that there. And then and this is, again, the tab that we're working in, right? So everything that we can kind of put into OneNote, all listed right here, nice and neat for us. And notice table is number 1 on that list. I just want to point that out. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the table, and it's going to look just like the one that you would access in Word. Gives you a grid that you can choose how many rows and columns. It'll tell you right there as you select down. So we'll just do a 3x3, and you can see that it plops down on the page here. So it slaps down. We can go ahead and move it around by grabbing the top bar anywhere that we'd like on this page, and then we can enter in material into this. So if I was going to say question here, if I was going to make a response bank for my students in here, and then I would say response, and then maybe, I don't know, additional notes. Whatever, maybe, I don't know. We don't really need 3 columns for that. Usually I just use 2. So maybe I want to get rid of this 3rd column. All I do is select it, hit delete, gone. That easy to work with. So, and then really in here, if I'm using a table, one of the things that I like to do is I like to change the color of the cells that the students can't or shouldn't be responding in. It makes it a little bit more clear for them. I'm a big fan of this crazy lightning blue or whatever that was down there. I like it to stand out. So they know clearly that they're not responding in those 2 cells. And then really sometimes I like to say, hey, that's question 1 for you, and that's question 2. And then I make it a little bit less confusing for them, that it really stands out that they just respond inside of these boxes. And it kind of takes care of itself. If I color it like that, students do really well. Again, this is my favorite thing to do with tables, is because I can customize pictures this way. I can add a photo into these cells. I can design different response mechanisms. I can do multiple choice. I can do, again, it's pretty limitless with the tables here. So this is one of my favorite features. But that being said, let's look at some cool things that we can do. They're round tables, but this really neat. So let's open a Word document. So I'm going to come down here, I'm going to click on this, and we're going to open this one here. An old set of notes that I used to use in algebra. So here's my stamp sheet. We can see that there's a table there. We can see the notes. What I want to show you is, and again, I'm going to design a round table because that's what we're talking about. I should be able to transfer. I can print this whole document. Don't get me wrong. I can print this whole document to my OneNote. But I might not want the whole document. Maybe I decided in my OneNote I want to move a little slower and just give them a couple days at a time. So notice I'm just selecting right here on this Word document. I'm going to go ahead and hit Control-C, which is going to copy that table set there. And I'm going to shrink this down. I'm going to come back to my OneNote page, and I'm going to Control-V it. I don't have to recreate anything. Look at that. That's fantastic. It took the exact cells that I had that looked the exact same way in the Word document, put it right on my OneNote page. I can quite literally take almost any content out of a Word document and plop it right on OneNote, and it'll look exactly like it did. I don't lose any formatting. Rarely do I do. It's a fantastic way to transfer material over without printing the whole document. Again, when I started printing a document to a page, that was my absolute most favorite way to do things. But I started to realize that it gets tricky for the kids to work on there sometimes. And so then I started making tables and designing spaces. And then eventually I just started copying material over or just building my lessons in OneNote as opposed to in Word first. And when I did that, tables jumped to the top of my list. My favorite thing to do in there. All right, so we're not just limited, though, to this copying of tables or really any content into OneNote. We can also pop open an Excel. So here's an Excel document. Maybe it's recording some information for me, of the questions these students, answered a certain response. Maybe it's something I printed out of a Microsoft form or, a Schoology response system. I get my CSV file, but I want to put it in OneNote for one reason or another. All I have to do is select the cells inside of the Excel. I'm going to go ahead and Control-C that again so I copy it. I'm going to go back to, let's put it up here so we can see with all the rest. My OneNote page, and I'm going to Control-V. And look at that. Boom, I've got that data. I can just pull it right over and plop it on the page. This is fantastic, right? If I make a Microsoft form and I give it out to my kids as a quiz, and I want to, take the Excel sheet, the file with all the data that comes with it, and I want to show the kids, how they responded as a class, I can just copy and paste it into OneNote, and then I can talk about it with them. It can be right there. That's fantastic. You can't beat that. So while we're talking about tables, really, we can even tag on there the ability just to copy and paste material, if you will, from any Microsoft product. It really allows you to just copy material, and you can do it from a web page as well. It works really pretty good, but you can just grab material, drop it in the OneNote, and then customize it however you want that to look. Colors, shapes, sizes, anything can be done with that. Okay, let's move on to my next favorite way to add content to a OneNote page. And it's a simple one, and I'm sure that almost all of us do it anyway. Maybe just not as much as I do. I have a love of screenshots and taking things off of my computer and throwing it into my OneNote. I am constantly screenshotting everything I can get my hands on, it seems like. I know that seems crazy, but it's a nice, easy way to remember information or to grab stuff. It's faster for me to take a screenshot than it is for me to type it up. And then OneNote, additionally, when you put images in here and there are text on it, it will search those words, right? If it goes through an OCR reader. So it has that ability built in. So it's fantastic even for its searching capabilities. So let's take a look at, I'm sure we don't need to spend a ton of time on this, but let's say I'm on the UCS tech site and I've got a kid asking me a question about, what happens with a cracked device. And I said, I could copy that or try to do it. Or I could just take a quick screenshot for him. Be like, wham, here's my screenshot. Come back over here and say, paste this in for my kids. Hey, there you go. This is what you do if you have a cracked screen. Or maybe I'm, looking for a new place to go and I just want to get that address. And so I hit, and I don't know if I said that, here's my secret combination of keys to launch a screenshot anytime you want is shift the Windows key and the S, right? So hold those three at the same time, and you go into your secret key command screenshot mode, and you can snap a picture just like that. We'll take that back to my OneNote page and hit Control V, which is paste. And you can see I can just flop on any material from a screen, from a browser, from a program, just put it right there. And so it really kind of opens the door for creation, because you can grab anything that you see. You're not limited to, what you can type. All right. So video is the next one on my list. I love adding video here because realistically, I show my kids lots of clips of videos. I think you should. I think that they are more powerful at points and times than how I can say something. I mean, I do a good song and dance, but a good video is hard to beat. So showing them clips and videos, or having tons of clips available to them, better yet, I like to flip my classroom. So I record my own videos. So it's really easy for me to make a video and then slap it right down here on the page, right next to the problem that they're doing, so they don't have to go anywhere. They just click play right on the page. It's awesome. They love it. They love it. Initially, they think it's strange, but eventually they come to grow on them, and they can't get enough of it. So let's take a look at what that may look like. I'm gonna go ahead and open up my browser again. I'm gonna come up here. Here's a video on how to use breakout rooms, just because there's one that's already there and loaded for us. All I do to grab this video is I click on the URL, I Control-C it, copy it down, go back to my page, click anywhere I want on here. Watch this, are you ready? I paste it in, and you're like, oh, that looks exciting, and then it transforms. I don't know if you saw that really fast, it transforms. And now I have the ability to take this video, resize it, any size that I want it to be, and then I can doodle in it if I wanted to. I could say, again, you can't do this necessarily unless you have digital linking, but I can point at it, I can draw notes to it, I can type around it, right? Because now it's just embedded right on my screen, and I can play it, right? So many times I'll take any of the videos that we show in class, and I'll go ahead and put them in here in addition for the students to rewatch if they want to. So if I showed something in class when we're face-to-face, I can have it here as backup if they were absent, if they missed it, if they wanted to review that video. It's fantastic. And if it's my own notes, then it's available for them to watch anytime they need to. Video is really awesome to paste in here. And it'll take a lot of your famous educational video sources as well. Not everything, but a majority of the ones that you may use in the classroom already, like Vimeo, Edpuzzle, quite a few. All right, so next down at number 8 on our, well, it's not number 8, I guess it'd be number 4 on our list of top 10 or top 5 things that I like to add content to would be links. So if we click on links, you can see the page is blank here. But let's just see, and I know this one isn't super important, but there's a couple of things, and I'm going to throw in a little bonus piece of information that I guess I consider a link as well. We'll show you that in a second. You may really like that one, but I'm going to go ahead and open up my browser. Let's say that I wanted to give you the link for the Educator Center for Microsoft. And I could copy that, and that's not a terrible link to write down or to share, but watch this. I'm going to go ahead and copy that. I'm going to take it back to my OneNote, and I'm just going to paste in here. Notice it didn't give you the URL that was on that page, right? It says education.microsoft.com/en-us, right? This gave you the actual name of the site. And I love that about this, right? You put the link in there, and it automatically creates the hyperlink that you want. You can go in, oops, I clicked the wrong button there. But you can go in and get the link for this by just right-clicking on it like we've done. That gives you your options and choosing link, and we can edit the link, and you can see there it is, right? And then it just automatically creates a nice hyperlink for you as you enter stuff. So throwing links in here is even just a little bit easier than anywhere else because it customizes it. That's fantastic. So let's look at something else that I consider along with links. Let's say that we were looking up for an article. And a lot of times we do look for articles. So here's an EdTech website that I frequent quite a bit. And I wanted this article here about 5 best practices for managing virtual breakout rooms. I'm going to click on this article, and I'm like, I want to get this article to you. Maybe this is sharing. Maybe this is part of our learning thing. And I want to provide this article and all this information to you. And I could screenshot it. You've seen me do that before. That would be a lot of screenshots. And I can select and copy, but those images might get a little weird in there. There's this really cool thing that you can get, and it's a hyperlink and I guess an extension, if you will. You can get it on Chrome, and you can get it on Edge. and it's called the Clip to OneNote or OneNote Clipper. And if you click on it, what it's going to do, and I'm not going to go through the process of how to get that. You just search for it. So clip OneNote Clipper or clip OneNote, clip to OneNote, you'll get it. It adds in really quickly and easily. And you can choose if you want the full page and all the images, particular regions, the article itself, or if you just want the bookmark. A lot of times I'll just choose the article, and then it'll preview it for you over here and show you what that article is going to look like. So it's going to clip all of the content off of that page for me, including links and any images that it can grab, right? And it'll leave all the extra stuff off that is not included inside of the actual article itself. You can change a little bit of the font if you wanted to here. You could highlight some pieces before you send it in, and you could also change the size of the text before you do it. But once you get all that kind of organized, you go ahead and choose the location that you want it. I've already pre-chose our notebook that we have, but you can choose any notebook that you have available. So we'll just keep this notebook if I can. And I click the article clipping, and it says that it's successful. So now if we go back to our OneNote, you'll notice here down at the bottom, here it is. And it'll load it up. We clicked it on, the 5 best practices for managing. And it'll take a second, but it is in process. But in a second, you'll see that article come right down in here. And it's the whole article. It provides you the link from where the article is at the top. Maybe we'll give it a second to load, and then we'll come back to this. And there it goes. And you can see here is the link to the actual article. We can click that and launch over to it. Any hyperlinks that were inside of the article are retained. The images are placed in the same spot. And it does a good job capturing that whole article from that relatively messy web page. If we go back and look at it, and it cleans it up. I mean, there's extra images over here. There's a lot of things going on. It makes that a much nicer, easier read. That can be beneficial for your students. It can be beneficial for your readers, because now you can use Immersive Reader inside of OneNote, right? And so it'll break it apart, do it line by line. So huge benefit to using that. And I know it's not necessarily a link. I do like to consider it like a subsection of a link, because it's kind of taking, what I would do with a link and making it better for me. So again, that's that OneNote Clipper. It's a fantastic little tool. You can add that in. All right, down to our last one, which is documents. Documents are fantastic. It is the place that I started. It's where you fall in love with OneNote. You can add any document that you have right on the page, and then there's lots of different ways that can happen. And lots of different views of it. If we go down here to insert, we can take a look at, you can have a printout. We can choose that option there. We'll not follow through with that. And then here under file, there are different ways to do it. So the difference between a file is going to attach a link to your OneDrive with the link to your OneDrive essentially for the file. The printout will actually put the document and the file inside of here. And that's 2 different ways that you can add material in there. My absolute favorite way to add material to a page like this is quite literally, we'll just pop open that old document that I have, is when I have it open, because I'm probably working on it in the first place, right? I'm not gonna access it and throw it into OneNote. I'm probably working on it and then decide to put it inside of OneNote. So let's say I wanted to put this stamp sheet here inside of my OneNote. This is my favorite way to add any documents into OneNote. Is I'm gonna go ahead and go to File. I'm gonna choose Print, and that seems a little strange if you haven't done this before. I'm going to say just page 1 for speed and purposes here. But notice I'm going to come up here to where it says Microsoft and my printer would normally be, right? You can see there's a laser printer, there's a fax. I'm going to come down here and choose OneNote for Windows 10. And when I choose this, it's going to attempt to print, not attempt, it will print this to my OneNote. So I'm going to click print. What you should see is a purple box flash around your OneNote for desktop app. And I do want to pause here for a second and say that this is specific to the desktop app. Printing to the online, I believe, does not work, or it is not it doesn't exist at all, actually, I'm pretty sure. So looking here, what we get is a choice of the current page that we're actually on, which is the one that we'll choose. We could choose the current section that we're in, the Unit 1, or if we clicked print and we weren't at the location that we wanted to be, we can now navigate to any of my notebooks and put it on any of those locations that we'd like to. So we get choice. So, but we do want it on this page. That was our intent. So we're going to go ahead and click there, and we're going to click OK. And what you should see is that document fill in, color and all, right there. And again, this is the quickest, easiest way to fall in love with OneNote, because you don't have to do much extra work to get your students a digital copy and the ability to write or design or do anything in this space. So that's fantastic. Okay, so I was going to give you a tip here about what to do with this document now that we put it in here. You can see these little lines that we're going to talk about in just a second. And then I realized that's actually the next section that we're going to go to. So let's go back to the PowerPoint real quick. Okay, so now that we've added some content to our pages, we need to talk about how they interact. The easiest way to think about any content that we can put on our OneNote page is in terms of a layer. Each piece of content that we add goes into a layer. These layers can overlap. They can be moved anywhere on the page. Layers are great, but the part that we need to pay attention to is the pushing. While layers can overlap, they can also push each other. This occurs when a layer above another layer has new content added to it. As you add content, the layer expands and pushes all the other layers below it down farther. This can be problematic and frustrating if you don't know how to design your page to minimize this issue. All right, enough talk. Let's go see this in action and how best to deal with it. Okay, we're back in our OneNote in our desktop Windows 10 app. We're about to look at how layers interact with each other. This will be a quick demo, but I did want to give it some time so that you fully understood kind of how these layers work. So you can see here I've got a couple different things on this page, and then we'll even go back and take a look at the printout that we added in just a second ago. So I've got some text on this page, I've got a printout on this page, and I've got a sticker, if you will, on this page, or an emoji. So the layers then, if I grab this emoji here, this Bitmoji, and I can slide it around, layers will move on top of layers, no problem. I can leave them on top of a layer, I can move them around on top of a layer, I can grab text, move it on top of another layer, and these are all layers. And then I can grab the bottom layer here, the actual image, this worksheet I've got, and I can move it. Well, you can see that this can be problematic. If your bottom layer moves, if this layer moves around as you're interacting with these layers, or something happens, you could lose what makes a lot of sense. So there's some tricks that we can use to help prevent this being an issue. So let's say we wanted our kids to answer this worksheet, right? Keep the directions up above. We can start to organize this. One way that we can organize this, and you can see it was my favorite way to add content, was with a table. Tables will help eliminate a lot of this issue because the table itself will contain everything in it, and it won't allow it to slide around. So that's one of the reasons that I enjoy a table so much. But another thing that we can do, if we're just trying to add a quick worksheet to my OneNote, I just want to put it in here, get the kids to it. I don't want to spend a lot of time. I don't have a lot of time to spend maybe, and I want them to do this worksheet. It would be more work to create in OneNote than it is just to print this in here and say, hey, here's a quick review of astronomy. Let me know if you know the order of the planets and the names of the planets. So instead of just leaving this, let's say it was printed in here, I can right click on it. And then by right clicking on it, down here at the bottom, one of my last choices is set to background picture. What this is going to do, it's going to take that image and it's going to take it, instead of making it a layer, it's going to permanently make it the background so that you can't move it, drag it, or drop it. And it makes your experience so much better. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to click on this. You'll notice real quickly that that little dotted line that represented this was a layer is now gone. And I can't grab this no matter what I do here, right? I can't get it. And I can take this image and it slides over the top just the same, and so does this one, but there's no chance that I'm going to move this. So if I start typing on here, if I come down and label this Earth, like there's no chance that I'm going to slide this out from underneath it. So that's one fix that you can do. If you're putting worksheets in here, right click on them and choose to set them as a background image. Okay, that's one way that you can help prevent any issues with these layers interacting with each other. Something else that's worth noting, we'll even set this back as a background picture here. We'll set that down. Something else that's worth noting is that maybe you can see that we've entered some information here in a layer. I've got directions in a layer. Let's go ahead and enter this as Saturn, and I'll show you what I'm talking about, that there's another issue to kind of pay attention to. So I've got two layers completely not intersecting here at all, not overlapping, and they're fine. But let's say I wanted to add some more information about Saturn. Maybe I had to do a little research, and there were some fun notes that I added to, Saturn. It was gathering more information. I keep entering, you can kind of see, but look what's happening to Earth as I hit enter. It's moving. So layers don't have a problem interacting with each other. Go on top of them, they can slide around, they can be removed, but there's this idea of pushing. If a layer is on top of another one, and we hit enter or expand that layer, and it runs into the top of another layer, and you can see that's happening now to Saturn here. We'll zoom in on the video, but you can see that layers will push other layers out of the way. If it's on top of it and it's being extended down by adding extra information, or in this case, I'm just hitting enter, they'll push them out of the way. So in general, when you're working on these documents, again, without tables, there can be some frustration because you could move all of your information around and then you've got to go back and slide it in. And sometimes it's such a slight thing. Maybe it's just a single enter. Maybe you didn't realize that, you had some information below and you weren't paying attention. You didn't think you did it, and it moves everything off of the document. It'd be quite frustrating for a student. So again, tables help to eradicate that, or just the idea that you show your kids that layers will push other layers out beneath them is something to pay attention to while working in OneNote. It will prevent some frustration levels from increasing. When you get done with a document, you realize everything's been moved out of the way. So there's our conversation about layers. Let's go ahead and move on to the next section. Okay, so we can effectively add content and we know how it interacts with each other on a page in OneNote. Let's take a look at some examples of interactive lessons to get our creative juices flowing. All right, we find ourselves back at our OneNote Windows 10 desktop app for our class notebook. This time I've switched notebooks, and this notebook is made available to you in the Schoology course. I've made a link. It is viewable by all. So I would, when we're done with this, there's actually an activity. You're gonna go and look through these in more detail. But right now I just wanted to kind of to show you around the notebook, give you a couple quick examples of some lessons that we've created to share with you to kind of get your brain flowing because you're about to make your own activity. So we'll start with the elementary side. Miss Kokomon was great enough to share some of her awesome resources. Actually, I'm quite a bit jealous of what she's made. Her stuff looks awesome. I'm not gonna go through everything, but you can see here, each of these is a page that you can go through, and hers are fantastic. I'm kind of embarrassed to put mine next to hers. Hers are awesome. So here is a couple. This is one that stood out to me. I thought was a really cool way to do something. She's gathered a bunch of different pictures for students, and she's asked them to categorize them by rural, urban, or suburban. And this is a drag and drop activity. How awesome is that they can just drag and drop that over? That's not something that you can do in your classroom really easily. Even you could cut and paste a little bit, but that activity isn't going to have nearly the effect that this one is with the colors, with the quick, easy sliding. There is no cutting, there's no pasting. It really makes this a very efficient, awesome activity. This can be done with words and vocabulary. This is a great one. It was really cool to see, and you can see here the kids have, here's a kid's version of that. They slide them around in there, and that's just fun for the kids as well. What a great type of activity that one was. Here's one that I thought was really simple and sweet. Reading chapters inside of a book. And then a couple quick questions at the bottom that the kids would answer after she read through the chapter. So this doesn't have to be done live. A lot of times, you're thinking that I've got to read a book to my kids. I've got to do it live. You don't really have to. This could be an asynchronous activity where, you pre-record you reading a chapter in the book, which doesn't take long, and then your kids can take that and watch that at any time for them, right? It gives them the ability to do it on their time frame. You can cut time out during the day, or it can be a homework assignment, or it can be extra credit, however you decide to design that. Here's one that I thought was great that she had worked on and made, where she put the page in the background so you could see the lines, made it look very much similar to what they would be working on, right? Lined paper, and it looks like they're, doing the benefits of summer and winter and the drawbacks of summer and winter. You can see there's some student responses on there, and that's just awesome that she went through to make it look, similar to what they would be interacting with. And like I said, this can be customized in any which way that you want it. It really does, lend itself to whatever your mind's eye sees, you can create inside of a OneNote notebook. I think those are fantastic examples. So now we'll move over to mine, which are probably not as fantastic looking as those, but to give you some more different ideas and a secondary sense and a lens as opposed to elementary. Here's one that I have customized before. When I do labs, sometimes if there's interactive labs or gizmos, I think a lot of science classes are using those now. I traditionally give some form of a rubric to let them know what the grading system is going to look like, obviously to start with some type of directions. You can see I use different types of text to signify different parts of the lesson. And these are embedded videos here. So this is also attached to Edpuzzle, so I can see how many times they rewatch it. I can see where they pause it. This gives additional analytics. But they can play it right inside of here. So they'll play this video. They'll answer these questions that go with it. Then I'll have them go through a portion of what was researched there. And in terms of tidal bulges, this would take them to a simulator that they would manipulate here, and they could see how the moon would manipulate the tides based off of its gravitational pull or push, if you watch some of my lessons. And then you can see that there's varying stages of them manipulating different gizmos and answering questions as they go. Right. So this is very self-directed for the students. I only interact with them on the side if they need additional help or if there's clarification while they're doing this. And then there's a summary assessment at the bottom, which comes in the form of, let's get this over here, worksheets. And notice how I did my worksheets. Instead of having them actually type on the worksheet, you can see me create a table so that these answers don't get pushed like we just saw with the layering. And that didn't take a lot of extra work to do that. And it creates a less frustrating type situation for the students had something got pushed or moved out of that worksheet there, because this is a longer activity. So that's one quick example. Let's take a look at a project example. This is a long-standing project that we spent probably a good 3 weeks, if not a month on. And this is, you can see it's worth 90 points, which is quite a bit for my class. They are creating a poster that will, when scanned, pop up different augmented reality images on the top of it. One of them being a sway. You can see that I give them the directions, which also kind of counts as rubric because these are check boxes, so they can check them off if they've completed these items. So another thing about Teams that's really nice is that you can add those in. Here's a form here. Usually it's active. Let's go out and in again, see if we can activate it. There it is. So now it's active, and so this is them turning in their information about their project in the midst of the directions. So who's your members, so that I get a member list. What roles are you designing for each member? What parts are they taking place so that we can make them responsible? And again, a bunch of information. These are all instructional websites to help them navigate all these different parts. Additionally, and then again, this was a planet taking out. We gave that out randomly. And then at the bottom, here are the different things that they have to do within the roles. Again, without going into great detail, which I seem to slip into, you can see how I can organize a fairly large project and make it interactive for them so that they can really be self-directed on this. And here's your rubrics, so they know what they're going to be graded on and what parts that need to be completed. An awesome way to design stuff inside of here. And the last little thing, here's a smaller activity, which I'd like to share. This one I like to do. I give them some bonus information. We would have a discussion in class about mythology, and how it's not related to astronomy, but then we like to do a fun little activity revolving around it, where they get to learn a little bit about mythology. They can watch these videos here. We don't show them in class. Those are optional. I give them some mythological images on the side. I ask them to do what we call the designer constellation, so they make a story about themselves and make it fantastical. And then they draw the actual images. They describe who they are, and then they tell me the story at the bottom. So again, these are just some quick overviews to get your brain juices going and thinking about how lessons and activities can be designed inside of OneNote. And now that's what we're going to go back and do. So let's pause back to the PowerPoint, and we'll explain what your activity is at this point. Okay, I hope that in the last section you saw something that you could relate to, or maybe you saw something that you would like to try. For the first activity, I'd like you to take a closer look at these lessons. There were a lot in there, and I feel like that maybe some of these could resonate with you. Here's your activity. Use the link, which is called Shared Demo ITC Notebook, posted in the Schoology course, and take a few minutes to take a closer look at each of these lessons, or at least a few of them. Pause the video and take some time to take a closer look. It's time to release the floodgates on those creative juices. Let's design some content. In Activity 2, I'd like you to create one lesson or activity that you would use in your classroom. It should include a few different forms of content like pictures, text, screenshots, links, videos, audio, etc. Try to be creative. Create something interactive or that might have multiple parts of interactions. Only your mind can limit what you can do with OneNote. I want you to pause the video and make your lesson. You can restart the video once you've finished. Ready? Okay, go. I can't wait to see those activities. But now let's level up and explore app smashing. App smashing, also known as embedding, is the act of combining two or more educational technologies together to create an interactive lesson. Mike Tomlinson has created a great video demonstrating what apps can be smashed into OneNote. For Activity 3, I'd like you to use the link in Schoology to view Mike's video about OneNote embedding the ultimate guide. While you view the video, please reflect on which apps you could use to add to your lesson that you created in Activity 2. When you are done watching the video, I'd like you to complete Activity 4. Activity 4 will consist of app smashing one or more apps into the lesson you made from Activity 2. Please share a brief explanation and screenshots of your updated app smash lesson in Schoology on the discussion board. All right, you ready? Pause the video now and go complete your activities. I know you made some amazing activities and lessons. I hope you take the time to look over all of the posted activities and reflect on what you've learned and what you've created. You've definitely leveled up your OneNote interactive lesson game today. This concludes our video and our PD. We hope that this was informative and that you learned at least one helpful thing. Thank you for attending the OneNote Class Notebook Creating Interactive Lessons, PD. Remember, you can always reference this video at any time in the GOG Professional Development Schoology course or in the GOG support videos in stream. Thanks again, and don't forget to live, laugh, geek.